All right, we're here with take two with Matt Njos from MNUSA. Matt, this is our second interview. Maybe we can get this right. The first time, I think you and I got it right, but there were some technical difficulties on the backside. As many of you do or don't know, Zoom has been hacked a lot, and they changed up passwords. So we had a couple interviews done, and due to technical stuff that's way beyond my pay grade, which doesn't take much, all those got wiped out. So Matt and I are going to give this a go-to. Round two, we just felt there was a lot of things that we discussed on the last interview, not only about the dual teams and other things, but a lot of the USA information that we put out that I think people have questions on, right, Matt?
Exactly. Yep.
Right. So should we try this again then?
Let's roll.
So let's dive into real quick, Matt. Again, we started off last interview. Let's start it right from the top again about the Heartland Duals team and how long you've been running that team and kind of what your thoughts were, a recap of last year and what you thought this year was going to entail.
Yeah, I've been involved with it. Boy, first year we were involved was Colby was in second grade. He's now a freshman in college. Nina McKee was running it at that time with her boys, and asked Colby to be on the team. Shortly after that, Patrick was out of sixth grade into middle school, and I took it over from her at that point. So I've been doing it probably 7 or 8 years now. I guess I can't remember exactly. Quite a while, and it's something I fell in love with right away. Just the whole youth, duals team concept. Once we started doing that, I instituted it actually at Anoka, and we started doing it more and more there. Even started up, Northwest Suburban Conference, youth conference duals we used to do from there. But and then that, kind of turned into something that was pretty awesome for the kids to be involved with. And then, but yeah, over the years we've had really good success down there. Had a lot of great kids, kids that have gone on and you've been state, placers, state entrants, state champions, and
I'll chime in with a couple questions there.
Yeah.
So two things that I thought were really interesting that you and I talked about in our pre-meeting before hopping in this interview was last year you caught a little heat down there from a lot of the other coaches and directors, and maybe you could explain to us down there. And so the tournament's actually hosted by the state of Nebraska, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Actually, the tournament's actually in Council Bluffs, which is in Iowa. So a lot of people kind of get confused that tournament. It's actually a state of Nebraska tournament, much like our MNUSA tournament, or if we ran like Wisconsin has the Wisconsin Dual, dominate the Dells.
Yep.
So this isn't one of Nebraska's USA fundraiser tournaments, correct?
For sure. Yes, it is.
So, and going down there last year, sounds like the coaches, the director were asking you to maybe take a little fuel off the fire.
Not so much. I guess not so much that, but a little bit. There was a few coaches that over the past few years just keep getting a little bit more and more upset with us and kind of give their little verbal jabs about. Obviously our 7th and 8th graders wrestling varsity, JV type stuff. The amount of wrestling that those boys do and level of training that they get isn't the same as every other state.
Right.
And so when we come down there, we're rolling in with hammers. And, that's one of the reasons why our state is so unique is that we find guys from, Greenbush, Proctor, from Albert Lee to, Worthington, to all over the entire state, where a lot of states actually, in Kansas and Nebraska are those states that they bring 6 regional teams.
Yeah.
It's totally different. They might bring 8 to 10 total teams, but they're all from regional areas. And where we bring, the best the state has, period, and we throw them on those teams, and yeah, last year.
And in fairness, though, you and your coaches do a really good job of recruiting some of the top tier kids in the state, and you guys do a great job. And I think the kids, which is a bummer this year, and I hope you touch on a little bit for us. I think the kids, it's a badge of honor in the state of Minnesota for a 7th or 8th grader to get asked to wrestle on one of these teams. And I feel bad for this year's 8th graders. I know a lot of them work their tails off to be on that team, but you have built it up, and probably Mrs. McKee before you, but you guys have really built it up to where I think every 7th and 8th grader hopes they get invited to be on this team if they're into wrestling.
Yeah, it's been, even with the duels this year being canceled, we'd actually be having weigh-ins in about 4 hours down there if they hadn't canceled it from right now. So, it's one of those things where we're sitting there. We decided to put the teams together after state tournament. And even after that, they canceled the tournament. We still decided to contact all the kids and invite the kids that were going to be on the team. And we just thought it was the right thing to do and offer the parents to buy the gear packs and stuff like that because, like you said,
Sure.
it's kind of a badge of honor for them. And, it's even when we do that, we still had a lot of parents. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. Almost every parent was super excited. The kids were excited to still be part of the team, even though we're not going to go wrestle. That's the downside of it, but still being to be selected to be part of that team. So I was glad that we kind of made that decision as a group to, contact those kids and let them know that they were actually chosen to be on the team. So that was pretty awesome.
Matt, did a lot of the kids still go ahead and get their gear pack?
It's probably been somewhere half to 2/3 still got the gear pack or, decided to get it. And, and it's something that they'll have. And I mean, I see kids still now, that wear their stuff from 4, 5, 6 years ago, so that's always fun when you're at the state tournament, seeing old singlets, old shirts and quarters and stuff like that, people wearing their stuff. So, and
since we're talking about where would they go to for those parents, if they're watching this, where would they go to get that gear packet, which is one of our sponsors, right? So I apologize. The cadet and juniors get their, where do they get theirs?
Yeah, they get all their, so cadets, juniors, schoolboys, the gear packs that we sell for the national team type stuff outside of Heartland is all done by Jeff Lathrop and JR Wrestling Products.
And we'll probably take a commercial break here and then come back, and we'll probably put Jeff's information up real quick, and then we'll come back. All right, so we're back with Matt Njos. We just wanted to give Jeff a little opportunity there. These are real trying times on him as well, right? Because with sports being shut down, I know you and I are able to do this at 1 p.m. right now because we're both semi laid off, if not laid off ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So if we can help Jeff out, he does a lot for the state. So guys, call JR Products and still order your stuff. If we get a chance this summer, you're still going to need it. And Jeff has done so much to support us, and it'd be awesome if we could support him in this time too. So
yeah, he's actually got stuff on his website right now from the state youth tournament that he's selling, currently, stuff that ran out, and he's making more of. So there's that opportunity on there too. So,
and I think he has a lot of the stuff in stock right now, does he not?
Yes.
So you could probably pick it up pretty quick.
Yep.
Cool. Hey, so one of the things that you talked about too, are you comfortable with talking about some of the kids that were on the team that are returning, or some of the kids that would have been on the team, or maybe some of the kids you were kind of earmarking as kids that were going to be exciting to watch this year? Not that they're not all exciting, but can we catch any secrets right now, or are you going to hold off on that release for a day or so and kind of put me behind the 8 ball again?
Well, because since I'm not, prepared to, speak on, individual kids, we're probably have to wait. I've got a list, but I'm gonna have to put it out there. This is gonna be something I'm gonna release tomorrow. I've had, I don't know how many parents and people.
So for those watching, for all 10 people besides your wife and my wife and maybe 8 others that are going to watch this, exactly. I've been busting Matt's chops for 2 weeks to be able to release it on here, and he wants to make sure his release is special. So I don't want to take that away from him, but I was hoping to maybe I knew if we could release it, our viewership might go up a little bit on this. So I'm all right with it, Matt. Well,
the one thing I can say is, we have multiple kids, multiple, dozens of kids, easily that have been on these dual teams for multiple years. Mm-hmm. We have a kid that's a 6th grader that's been on the team since he was a 2nd grader. He still has 2 more years to be able to make the team again, which would be huge. There's only been a few kids that have ever done that.
That's awesome.
And then, a lot of it makes a, Heartland Duals, special time is when we go down there and seeing the team the fans, you know, the parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles that come down, and all of us going down there's Team Minnesota. Team Minnesota, it's such a important thing. You know, we try to just we're
Now, is that part of the
that
corona?
was interesting.
Is that part of the coronas going on in your house? I mean, is there?
You know, that might be, or I failed to, you know, maybe put that up that well. I don't know. You know, we'll just make a little sidebar here real quick, Jamie.
Yeah, that was awesome.
This sign been hanging up there now for about a week.
Uh-huh.
This was something that I got from MNUSA. I don't know if you can read that. or
Yeah.
not.
MNUSA is in your corner.
It says hashtag
Nah strong. I love it. Hashtag nah strong.
I got this. Jen Pierce and Billy Pierce made that for me 5 years ago in May 8th. And then when I had a brain aneurysm right before the freestyle Greco state tournament.
Yikes.
And I wasn't able to make it down there. And a lot of the kids and parents and stuff like that signed this, you know, and, you know, people that have been on the duals teams and have not been on the duals teams. And just, you know, I'd hate to start naming out some of the people that are on here. They know who they are, you know, very special to me. And I just try to, you know, I decided to kind of set up an office. I decided I want to hang that up in this area and have it there. And, you know, kind of funny that it falls as we're discussing this and not in any other time.
But I tell you what, this COVID-19 is obviously, you know, we're talking in the middle of a pandemic, right? And obviously a lot of people, serious stuff out there. A lot of people are sick. They're losing their lives. My wife and I were having a conversation the other day of how many people are between suicides and then work-related projects around their house that they would have normally never done. How many people might be getting hurt and doing projects that they have no business doing. And to me, that might look like one of those projects that you were bored the other day and didn't quite know how to do it. I tell you what, this might be bad luck. Shortly after my interview with Will Short the other day, he fell off a ladder doing a big project. He was building a loft and broke 7 of his ribs.
Great. So this is so you're saying this is kind of an omen. Well, if that's the only thing that falls and it didn't get damaged at least, because it's only about 3 feet off the ground.
Right.
But you know, if that's the worst thing that happens and a 3M hook doesn't hold up, big deal.
Yeah, I love it. So I want to dive into some of the other projects you're involved in too. Obviously, you are the cadet director for the state of Minnesota.
Correct.
And obviously, there's man, that's a pretty fluid situation right now. So maybe you can enlighten us as to what the cadets are up to, what we're trying to get done. Also, let's do a lead in too. How many of your Heartland Dual team members have made cadet dual teams? I remember you gave me a number. It was a pretty impressive number. You could ballpark it for us, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously every year we come up with a list. At the end of the year, we come up with a list of returning cadets that wrestle freestyle Greco, and schoolboys that'll be moving up into cadets. We have kind of our potential list made up that we use all year long, and we kind of tweak it and change it. And you know, at that time, we haven't really done anything with it this year because there hasn't been a lot of reason to add. Plus, we started adding and changing it once the freestyle Greco season begins.
Right.
And well, that hasn't happened. So, but we got about 60 names on there, you know, and I went through it and we were talking about this, you know, and there's over 50, probably 53 kids that have wrestled on the Heartland Duals teams at one point or another, have been on it at least 1 year or multiple years. And, you know, there's a whole group of them that have won either elementary championships down there or middle school championships, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been, it's cool to see these kids grow and mature, you know, as individuals, but then also see them, how they grow and mature in the sport of wrestling also. And seeing kids that, you know, maybe at one point we're an alternate on a team, you know, because we bring alternates down to Harlan.
Yep.
Maybe they weren't one of the top 3 kids in elementary, but they kept fighting and they also made the team as a starter. And then they, you know, now they're, you know, moving up and, you know, becoming, you know, champions and All-Americans at Fargo and stuff like that. I mean, that's a, it's a cool thing to sit and watch.
Absolutely. I'd be curious, and obviously there's other sports organizations for wrestling in the state of Minnesota, but when you look at the kids, and I can think of a couple right now that have done really, really well and are getting opportunities at that next level without going through the MNUSA event. But when you events and teams, but when you look at the vast majority of the kids that are going on to the next opportunities or are doing super well at high school state, it's not hard to see that most of them participate in the MNUSA events, whether it be the Heartland Duals or the schoolboy duels or obviously cadet and junior. So Matt, the last time we met, we talked about the separation criteria on how it worked at the duels, right? And how important it is for our guys to get to some of these other tournaments. Can you explain what tournaments you want to see these guys? Obviously this year we're in a pandemic. They're, at this point, Northern Plains, I think it's safe to say, is done. We're not going to have it. But can you explain to these guys how they earn points for your team? So not just to be on your team, but things that they can do to help the team. So can you walk them through where you want them, how they get points, give them some ideas?
So everything's when they do separation criteria for dual teams anyways, it's based off of results or past results even of UWW stuff, nationals, regionals, it can be come off of any of that stuff.
Regionals like Northern Plains, Central Plains, yep.
Southern Plains, yep. How they did at U17s or stuff like that too. That those kind of things, those All-American status and those points can be brought in.
Schoolboy nationals.
Yep, they do. Yep. So prior age group points can be brought in. They don't count as much as a current cadet All-American.
Yep.
Schoolboy national champ isn't going to be as much as a cadet national champ, right? But those points do transfer in. Yep.
So you take a Ryder Rogotsky and who All-American at Fargo last year, right? Yep. He's going to come in and help the team with a lot more points, even though that schoolboy is going to come in and give us some points as well. So they're both really, really important.
Right. Yep.
Do you have an idea how your team was looking this year with the previous points and separation?
Boy, I mean, it's hard to tell how the team was going to look because kids always jump up. There's kids that are,
with points, Matt. Do you have any idea how your points look?
We don't. We never went in and figured it out because, compared to what we had last year. I mean, last year, we did have, we had three Fargo champs that were going to be on the team, multiple, 5 other All-Americans that were going to be on the, on the team. And that obviously depends on which style you're going.
Yep.
Schoolboys, I think we still had, what do we have? One on there, and I'm not 100% positive like how, world champions, play into that too, because we had a couple world champions, one in Greco, one in freestyle, that would be part of that group. And then even, in schoolboy national champion. So, all those things come into play. So, even though you might be a schoolboy moving up to cadet or a cadet moving up to junior even, it's very important that, how you do in that up year, right? For the next year for your duals team, and then also being able to, obviously you're competing with the best at that point too, you want to be able to have that good competition towards the end of the year. So
another thing, I got a sneak peek on your wish list of all the kids that you were actively recruiting.
Yep.
You had about 4 or 5 weight classes there, if I recall, that I don't know. I don't sit on the committee to pick the teams, right? So for me, I don't have to worry about that. I don't know how the heck you guys would have figured it out. I mean, 106, 113, 120, 126 on the cadet. You could probably win a duel with any one of the 5, 6 deep you had there. So anyway, you can touch on that for us a little bit, just on how deep that was.
Yeah, I mean, as the state of Minnesota right now, we've had multiple, kids in the weight classes there where we're so deep, period. I mean, you look at our state tournament this year with, the 106, 113 pound weight classes. I mean, they're just stacked with good kids.
Mhm.
You know, and you know, it always works itself out. Obviously, with wrestling, it's one of those sports where so and so beat so and so. That's it. I mean, you know, you can't make it up any other way. There's nothing else you can do about it. So being able to, you know, kind of allow those things to happen, we kind of know who are maybe, you know, maybe our top, you know, two, three kids are, but then we got another group of kids that's usually about 3 to 4 kids that are like, okay, any of those kids could bust into these top
Oh,
kids, you know,
it,
and like you're
it's
saying, that
brutal.
area there between 106 and 120, it's and 126, I should say. And right now, who knows? Because who knows what some of these kids are weighing?
I'm guessing some of those 120 pounders are tipping 160 right now.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, right. So, you know, that always comes into play too. Because the kid that wrestles 52 during the high school season, you can't put him down at 52 because generally he's not going to go scratch 52. But you know, he might be a 70
Right,
or it might be a 70 pounder go 95.
right.
Who knows? You know.
You don't, and I'll tell you too. Greco freestyle practices for those kids who haven't done it yet. They're very fun. I mean, you're getting into some funky stuff, fun situations, and the practices tend to be a little more technical, and you're trying new stuff, and it's a lot of fun. Where a high school practice room is going to involve a lot of conditioning, you know, a lot of endurance. So you're going to burn a ton of weight. Where in that off season, you might be working out or practicing 5-6 days a week, but you're not going to burn the same kind of weight you will in a high school season, right, Matt?
Right. Oh, for sure. And especially when you're having 2-a-days and then you're going to a, you know, practice wherever your club or a private club and, you know, having an hour and a half or maybe a 2-hour practice.
Yep.
It's not the same intensity, obviously. It just hasn't ever been. It's not saying that it's not nothing to do with coaching or anything like that, but it tends to be that freestyle Greco season is just kind of a little bit more of a laid back type of sport. Not in all, because not all the kids are that way, but I think that's just kind of how it is. When you go into the gym and you see the coaches and you see parents there compared to a folk style tournament, youth folk style tournament, it's totally different. And I don't know if that's just
everyone's got their shorts on, their flip flops, right?
yeah. And I don't know if that's just I don't know. I hate to say it, it's like a wrestling IQ thing. You know, like okay, these guys have been around a lot longer, especially some of them, you know, and they're competing more of the year. But it's got a different feel to it. It is what it is, and it's just such a great time of the year. And this year, this is a bummer. I mean, this sucks. I don't even know how to describe it because where we would be trying to figure this all out right now, it's a real hard time to, especially when we're still up in the air. We don't even know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So to go back to your team, I saw those lightweights, and man, is it deep, right? And your upper weights maybe weren't as deep, but I have to imagine at Cadet, sometimes it's a challenge finding quality upper weights. And from the list I saw, it looked like you had some hammers coming in on the upper weights too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, that's a lot of some of the names we wrote down are guys that we've had on the Heartland teams. You know, and I hate to give a guy props on something, but Doug Schwiel, I mean, you know how bad it kills us both, Jamie, to have to, you know, give him props on something.
Well,
but
so you bring up Doug Schwiel, and I always have a question when it comes to Doug. If we had to grade who's grumpier, Doug or Corey Nelson, who are you going with in that argument?
Probably just off of age, I would go with Doug. Corey 1A, 1B? I mean,
you and I like both of them, so I don't know what that really says about us, right? But
probably C and D. But I mean, Doug does a really good job though for our Heartland stuff on the middle school, finding those big guys out there that have never wrestled for MNUSA Wrestling. They're maybe an NY kid, or they only wrestle high school or youth stuff, and that's it. And then they don't ever wrestle, you know, out Greco. But the second we get them into that room for Heartland Duals, they kind of see what's going on. They have to get a USA card, and they start seeing what's going on. Let's go. Hey, you guys should do some freestyle Greco. And our coaches are really good when they're down there talking to these kids about that stuff. And next thing you know, boom, they're all bought in, and they're doing it. And it's trying to find those big guys. I mean, you can ask any high school coach, trying to find a quality big guy, not the easiest thing all the time.
I tell you what, I got a call from Doug. It was obviously before the pandemic, and he's like, Nelson, you got to help me find some big guys for cadets, right? Your kid's a big guy. Find me some big guys. He goes, we got to get that Waconia kid, right? And so I put my son on it. I said, Gavin, you gotta call Max. You got to get a hold of Max. And Gavin got so fired up. He's like, Dad, Max is a hammer. If we can get McAnally, we're gonna be tough. And they exchanged, I don't know if they're on Twitter or Snapchat or whatnot, but Max had given Gavin a verbal that he was going to be part of the team. And just to add another kid like that, but that also, not only was I excited to get Max, but I was excited about Doug's passion. Like, you got to go get me a couple big guys, right? I was like a 9 p.m. phone call. He was all fired up about finding big guys.
Yeah, that's what Doug has done. Just a good job of it. You know, he tracks them down. He tracks down the coach, basically gets me a number for somebody, and boom, I call them up, and they always go. You know, and you know, and there, like I said, there's been multiple kids over the years that have been, you know, on there, and you know, it's fun to have the coaches for Heartland buying in, you know, because then those guys help out for cadet duels and junior duels for us having a list of guys, whatever weight, we know where these guys are at and who's out there, who's wrestling, you know. So
we want to put it out there, Mo Tucker, if you're watching this, you're out again, right? He said it. Be nice to have Big Mo back on it. So touching on the Heartland, I'm sorry, on the dual team for cadet, we did get a little bit of a positive message from USA Wrestling about the dual teams. Their thought right now is that because a lot of the states take cadet and junior duels as serious as Fargo, they understand that right now, and we'll dive into this, but USA Wrestling is still keeping the Fargo date. You and I will talk about our personal optimism on that one, but they mentioned that they were going to push cadet junior duels behind Fargo this year. So there's still a really, really good chance that we could have a dual tournament. I personally think there's a better chance for that than probably Fargo at this point. So what's your take on that, Matt?
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we spent a lot of time, you and me, on the phone last week. We called a few different people to get information after the state chair, you know, meetings were going on, and just trying to see, you know, what was the plan. And like you're saying, the plan is they're possibly looking at, because they haven't ruled out duels yet.
Mm-hmm.
We know Northern Plains is not going to happen. You know, but they're already, you know, they're looking at duels. They're kind of holding off on that, but they decided to have it in August. You know, they're talking about possibly even doing it like all the duels down in Tulsa at one time.
Yeah.
Which would be
as late as September is also what they said.
Yeah, right. Yeah, which is, you know, which will be whole nother thing to try to find a team of non-football players, you know, or any kids that are playing, you know, fall ball even possibly.
Yeah, fall soccer.
So, you know, I mean, they're right. I mean, soccer and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, there's so many sports once the school year's going. But, you know, I mean, as far as Fargo goes, you know, I mean, like we talked about, man, do you think Fargo, you know?
Let's back up though too. I think the one thing that we got from the USA folks was that there's so many year-round wrestlers right now. And they know even if we get something in August or September, that it's maybe not going to fit for all their USA wrestlers, but they definitely wanted to at least be able to put something out there for their year-round wrestlers. And so one way or another, if nothing happens this summer, USA Wrestling also mentioned a late August folk style tournament. So they're coming up with different ideas. But let's jump forward now back into what you're mentioning, kind of where we're at with the Fargo. And you and I last week, we did some homework. We did a bunch of three-way phone calls with guys, and the information was extremely fluid, right? I mean, what we learned on Tuesday was more optimistic on Friday. And we got way different messages from both those phone calls, did we not?
Yeah, and you know, and it kind of comes down to a little bit as they telling us, you know, I mean, whether they have medical staff on the phone or not, you know,
Right.
You know, because we can be optimistic as much as we want to be, you and me just sitting, you know, here chatting and be like, yeah, we're gonna have Fargo, but then it depends. It honestly comes up to how the medical field feels about it. Obviously how everything is handled between now and then. But they don't have any specific date even in mind to say, hey, we're going to make a decision on Fargo by June 1st. They don't, there's none of that. So, the hard thing will be is deciding to go ahead and have a season or have duels. They want to make sure that there's somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks of practicing before duels, just to alleviate injuries and stuff like that.
Matt, let's take another quick break, and then let's come back to the more hard-hitting information that we learned, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go ahead, take a quick break. We'll come right back. All right, so we're back with Matt Njos. We left off talking about Fargo. I think some of the hard information that we learned was the medical staff was concerned about, they didn't want to have too short a notice before Fargo. And basically the USA medical staff was saying if there's only 1 or 2 weeks ready to get ready, they weren't interested in really holding Fargo because it'd probably set a record with the amount of injuries. What we heard was the most aggressive number is if we get to go ahead was 3 weeks, but 6 weeks, but the sweet spot really sounded like if in mid-June we're good to go and we find out in mid-June, there's probably a Fargo. If we're good to go at the beginning of July, it sounded like there would not be a Fargo. Did you take it different than that, Matt?
No, I think that's exactly it. I mean, that's exactly what their thought process is on it. And I know we right now in Minnesota, I mean, they're looking at, as far as Governor Walz has said, that they look at the peak to hit here sometime in, I believe it was July, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
It was yesterday, which is like, yeah, I mean, how do you host a tournament at that point anywhere, much less in North Dakota and bring kids from all over the nation there?
Well, yeah, and we heard about that from the people in North Dakota too. So some of the other things that were cloudy, and also why Northern Plains didn't happen, right, is these colleges, none of them are starting till August 1st, right? So the RCTC Community College in Rochester said, hey guys, you can have Northern Plains, you just can't have it here. We're not open till August 1st. And the University of North Dakota, unlike, just like all the other universities said the same thing. They told USA Wrestling they didn't want it there, right? And then it got a little goofy because USA Wrestling did a great job. They worked with the Fargo Dome because the city of Fargo owns the Fargo Dome, right? Mm-hmm. And then they have all their events canceled through July 5th. USA Wrestling was able to still get them to hold the July 14th date. So the July 14th date is still in circuit right now. But the gray area is that the dome is owned by the city, but the land the dome is owned by the university, and the university doesn't want to host it. Is that not what you also took from it, Matt?
Right. I mean, obviously we're getting some of this third hand, right? Third person, but but that's exactly it. That's exactly what we're kind of hearing. So, and whether they decide, I mean, there's so many scenarios around whether they're going to hold smaller nationals in different locations, basically regional tournaments as nationals, whatever.
And let's go to that too. I think the other thing we heard was we heard from some representatives from the city of Fargo, and I don't blame them, because even if we hit the peak, call it in the middle of May or late May, there's the peak, and then, we're not done. It's, there's not a vaccine yet. We're not done. And North Dakota right now has a really good breakout ratio, I believe. I mean, they've got very few cases, very few deaths. I don't think the city of Fargo is too excited about 12 to 15,000 strangers rolling around Fargo this year. That was the other thing that I took away from the meetings. Did you not hear that as well?
Well, right, and that's exactly it. And they're also not, it sounds like they're also not interested at all of having a wrestling tournament without fans.
USA Wrestling is not.
So yeah, they're not going to go, okay, hey, coaches, states, you guys can bring your guys in and no fans are allowed, And so, that's a big change too, right? I mean, because they're talking about having these different, sporting events without fans, but USA Wrestling is like, no, we're not doing that. We're not going to have that happen. which
Well, and you're hearing the
that is great.
NFL and the NCAA is saying the same thing right now about fall football. They're saying if they can't have fans, then they're probably not going to have football, right?
Right.
Or some kind of abbreviated version of it, right? So with that said, that was a rumor going around that Fargo could happen, but there'd be no fans there. USA Wrestling really does not want to run events without fans. I completely get that. And so then the next thing you touched on was we heard that maybe cadets would be in Iowa and juniors might do their tournament in Illinois. That rumor seemed to get snuffed out a little bit, didn't it not?
Yeah, that didn't get much heat with it. So yeah, that didn't seem like that was gonna really happen.
It doesn't mean it won't. It just
Right.
means,
Well, right, and everything you said earlier. I mean, everything's so fluid. Everything can change minute to minute, day to day. And honestly, going from a Tuesday phone call to a Friday phone call last week, things changed in those conversations too. And I'm not even sure exactly when the next meeting is. I'm not sure if you know.
Yeah, they're right now they're running them weekly, right? So they're doing Tuesdays and Fridays. So if you and I learn more, we can maybe do an update after if we hear anything that changes to what we hear, we could find out some information on Friday.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and when you start talking about having stuff in, as far as duels go in September or August, not having, let's say they have duels and no Fargo, no regionals, no nothing like that.
Right.
Having to bring a dual team there really becomes an issue to try to figure out, well, one, who can go? How do we decide who's going to be on the team?
Right.
And so much, and I know other states are going to be in the same situation, but to be honest with you, I don't really care about them. I care about how we're going to do it, make sure that we try to do it the right way. And we got enough people that we've been talking with to try to come up with the solution to that. You had talked about too, and somebody else had talked about doing a point system, right? And getting 4 or 5 people together and coming up with some kind of a point system. How do you get these guys to go?
Why don't you let's dive into that a little bit more. So what we've heard from other states is if Fargo happens, they're going to most likely put their teams together through a point system with everything from how they might have done at high school state to how they did last year to participation. We haven't done that yet, but I do think we need to put a small committee together and at least create a point system so that if it does happen, rest assured wrestlers of MNUSA will have a plan.
For sure. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's getting 4 or 5 people together, coming up with, 10, 12 criteria, assigning them a point total and what's most important, obviously. And then just start going through the kids,
Yeah.
And so, I mean, again, is this something that's going to happen? I mean, we were really looking forward to being able to go out there as far as a dual team too and compete. We won both styles last year. The repeat would be awesome with these kids, and some of them, possibility we don't even have a chance to do it.
Right.
So,
and if we do have these events, we're in okay shape as far as Minnesota goes. We're coming off our most successful youth state tournament. A lot of people don't realize this. There's multiple sports leagues in Minnesota. MNUSA is a 100% nonprofit. Matt doesn't take a salary. I don't take a salary. Nobody on MNUSA takes a salary, right? Our president's full-time job is an attorney. Our CEO's full-time job is he's a maintenance director of multiple car dealerships. There's no one that takes a salary on MNUSA. We got really lucky because our youth state tournament happened this year. We were able to bring in our revenues. I've heard from a lot of other state directors, Matt, they're in big trouble right now. They didn't get their youth regionals. They didn't get their youth state tournament done. So Fargo, for most people that don't know, if you live, say, in the Midwest, Minnesota primarily, to go to Fargo would normally be $1,600, but MNUSA subsidizes, I think, is it about $33 of every 100 or somewhere in there, Matt?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, it's $500 to basically go to Fargo.
Yeah.
And
So
compete and everything. $650 you're going to cross over. I'm off the top of my head right now, right?
Right.
I think that's about what it is. And then plus your gear pack that you have to buy, you know,
Right.
which one's, I think $200 through Jeff. So, you know, but then we subsidize a majority of that because
Correct.
Fargo in itself is literally a loser for us. But we lose money on that, but we make money with the U State tournament. That's, you know,
It's our fundraiser. It's our biggest fundraiser.
Yeah, I mean, just like any other, you know,
Yeah.
club like Simley or like us, you know, well, maybe not Simley. I mean, you know, they got all kinds of other stuff going on. But, you know, as far as Anoka goes, I mean, our youth state tournament for our youth club is a huge moneymaker. And it's important to the, you know, the sustainability of our program, just like every other club. Whether you're making $2,000 or you're making $6,000 or more out of tournament, that's what you use to sustain your club for years to come. And then all of a sudden, if you don't have a tournament, it's detrimental. I mean, Nebraska USA Wrestling, for instance, not holding Heartland, having 80 youth teams come in there between middle school and elementary. I mean, it's that they've got to be figuring out like what they're doing. You know, that's a huge hit for them.
Well, I'm glad you brought Nebraska up too. I talked to Zach Dominguez from Nebraska, and they're a little nervous because I don't believe they had their youth state tournament either. I talked to Scott Cleaver in Wisconsin. They didn't have their youth regionals, which is a huge monemaker for them. They didn't have their youth state tournament. They didn't have their youth. They didn't have Dominate the Dells. They didn't have their Greco Freestyle State, nor will we. And we don't hardly make. I mean, we pretty much do Northern Plains as a break even, so that's not really a moneymaker for us by the time it's all said and done, because we split that money up amongst all the states that are there. Why we do that, I don't know, but we do.
Correct.
Right. So, but with that said, we're in a fiscally safe spot. And in wrestling, if most don't know, it's a pay it forward program, right? You do all the youth stuff. A lot of the parents like you and I, we go work those tournaments. So we're kind of paying it backwards so that the parents can enjoy watching their daughter or their son wrestle. But that fundraising or that money goes towards the older kids for the most part. But that's why the older parents go back and work. It's one big circle, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yep.
But with that said, talking to some other states, they were saying that if they send their kids to Fargo this year, if there's a Fargo, the kids are going to have to pay for it 100% themselves. So like if you're coming from Illinois or PA, those kids are going to have to pay upwards of $2,500 to go. And with the unemployment rate out of control right now, and I know you and I are not in the best situations that you and I have ever been in life right now.
Right.
It would be hard for me. It'd be hard for me to justify dropping $1,500 right now to send my son to Fargo, even if it does happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, and that's true. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, whether it's $500, you know, to one person or $1,500 to another person, you know, it's a chunk of change, even on a normal year.
Even on a normal year. Yep.
Yep. So I mean, you know, even on, you know,
and now that compounds, it's double for
right.
Not for Minnesota, but for other states, it's double.
Right. Yeah, because there's no subsidies at all.
Right.
You know, I mean, one of our fundraising things is gambling for MNUSA Wrestling, right?
Tabs. Yep.
With all the bars, everything's closed. That revenue is not coming in either for us, you know.
And that drives down the cost of our tournaments. That helps with purchasing of mats. I mean, it helps a lot. Yeah,
I mean, you know, even to the point of technology and stuff like that. I mean, that money goes into the general coffers and gets used on for whatever we need to do. You know, and not having, you know, and our clubs right now that are freestyle Greco clubs that are all the tournaments set up to run their tournaments, you know, that they count on that money too. And like I said before, but you know, I think that you know, it's one of those things. I do know, and I can say this with 100% certainty, we are not going to be having Fargo camp at Augsburg this year,
right? Because
Augsburg has completely shut us down. We were told yesterday that it's a no-go. So even if we do have a Fargo camp,
it's going to have to be. It may be in a private club.
Well, it might be, yeah, right. Because I mean, how many other schools are going to let us go in there, right? Colleges, state universities, all that stuff, they're shut down.
High schools are going to follow their lead.
Right. We may have, you know, you got clubs around the state, right? I mean, you got your Pinnacles, you got your Scoring Edges and Takedowns, you know, Summit, stuff like that. There are you know, individual clubs. So we're gonna become real, you know, trying to do what we can to have this happen. And if Fargo does happen, we know there's not going to be a camp, but we know that we're also going to have to do something.
Right.
Whether it's a 1-day training and go,
Or yeah.
but we'll, like we've been saying the whole time, the word is fluid, man. And we
Might
don't
might
know.
have to do some what we call commuter camps, where it's maybe a couple days, but there's no overnights. Because even if we had camps, there'd be no vaccine by then, correct? So,
Right.
And you and I are big USA wrestling people. We're big MNUSA wrestling people, even though I'm supporting my girls Augsburg's wrestling team today, right? Who, by the way, had a great season. But with that, let's talk as dads here for a second, okay? Let's be real. So let's say Fargo happens. How comfortable, and your son Kobe is just barely out of high school, wrestles up at St. Cloud State. Well, let's just use Kobe, because one of the rumors that we heard is if Fargo happens, that it could be in combination with Worlds, because they're anticipating so many less athletes will be there this year because of the financial, the distance, everything else, right? So if Fargo happens, they're really looking at it as probably a combo of Worlds. We heard that time and time again in our calls, did we not?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're looking at
but
yeah, I mean that's what they're looking at doing. I mean, USA has to send a world team to Worlds. I mean, that's what they're saying. So if that's the case, we've got to come up with something,
right.
Set for a team. Well, if we're having a tournament somewhere, then that makes the most sense to kind of do it in conjunction with them both. Now that could possibly throw a wrench into who's going to wrestle Fargo, who's going to wrestle, UWW.
But I know Fargo was on that team. We don't know, right?
Right, exactly. And whether they're going to do them at the exact same time in both tournaments, or will one take place after the other, and have 2 weeks of wrestling up there, I have no idea. But, the hard part, I know what you're probably going to say is, what happens if your kid makes the world team?
Well, I wasn't even going to ask you that yet, but you're stealing my thunder, right? So let's say Fargo happens and it's in July, like it's normal, right? And there's no vaccine yet. How comfortable would you be sending your son up with kids from all over the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest? Obviously, it's an intimate sport. They're going to literally be on top of each other. How comfortable as a dad would you be in sending your son up to Fargo right now, if without a vaccine?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. I mean, as we sit at this moment, at this day, probably not feeling the greatest.
Right.
Just to be, like you said, talking as a dad, as a parent. How will we feel in, basically 60 days from now?
Yeah.
No, 90 days, right? So.
Right. Well, so 60 because they need a 30-day notice.
Yeah, right.
To happen, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in 60 days, who knows? I mean, it might be a totally different thing. It'd be interesting to see in 60 to 90 days from now, to see what's going on compared to what we're talking about today.
So then let's take that a step further. Kobe goes up. He'd be what, a U21 this year?
You'd be
U21. And he goes up and makes the Greco World Team for U21s. How comfortable would you be then in sending him to Estonia, where they have like 10 respirators?
Yeah, I know. That's exactly it. I mean, it might be one of the reasons why most kids don't even get involved with it. I mean, how about Gavin? How would you feel with Gavin going up there and competing to make a world team, and then because that's where you guys were at last year, correct?
We were in Budapest, yeah.
Budapest, sorry.
But we've been to Estonia before, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah. So
I mean, that's
I love both those countries. They're awesome, but it would make me nervous to be in either one of those countries,
right?
During a pandemic.
And I mean, who could you even fathom right now jumping on a plane and going anywhere?
No. In defense of those countries, they'd probably be just as nervous coming to our country, right? Because you're fearful of what you don't know, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They might have great medical there. I don't know. I'm not bashing on their country, but I'm afraid of what I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know. So that part would really have me nervous. And and my son has made a U15 world team, and I think I don't know that he would have won it this year, but I think he'd be in the mix. And
for sure, right.
And so it's something that's gone through my wife and I. We've talked about it, and not just that. For us, financially, the whole thing right now with not working right now, and I own my own company, so I don't have any money coming in like I normally do. So those are all factors in what everyone has to figure out these days. So you're in a very similar boat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, what does it cost for a kid to make a world team?
Oh, well,
Approximately, without any kind of.
I'm going to pick on my son here a little bit, right? Because we were a little ignorant to we were a little ignorant to how it worked, right? And in international wrestling, there's no wrestlebacks. So if you lose in the first round, it's like going to high school state. If you lose in the first round, you're done. And he still has he still has a couple scars from the Russian that bit him, the Russian kid that bit him with only a few seconds to go in the match when he gave up the hold and lost by 1. And then that Russian kid went and was winning by 6 points when he got pinned by the next kid. So by bringing my wife, Gavin, my daughter, and my son over there, we turned it into a family trip. But it was about $10,000 for 6 minutes of wrestling.
So yeah,
and we haven't thought about it since, right? So
hasn't been brought up one second.
Well, not when Gavin's in the room. So
Well,
no, but it's a lot to consider, right?
Right.
At least we weren't the Silvases that lost all their money the night before the trip. That's a crazy story I'll have to tell you about sometime. Chris Silvas was going crazy. They lost their passports and the money. Well, that's another thing, getting a passport right now.
Oh, right.
I don't even know how the heck you get a passport. So there's so many deals to work out. But Chris lost her purse the day before we were supposed to take off for World. Zach Silvas' mom.
Yep.
And all their cash, their passports were in it. So they had to rush down to Chicago, which is where we're flying out of a day early, get their passports. If you made that mistake now, you couldn't even go to Worlds.
Yeah, you'd be out. Yeah,
for
out. Sure.
So I don't even know how you go about getting. I mean, we're trying to get my son lined up for a driver's license test today, and you can't do that either. So how the heck do you get a passport?
Yeah. That's it's little things like that. It's the little things that you don't think about, right? And how everything out there right now, how it affects every person, one way, shape, or form. Whether you're a commissioned person or you're non-commissioned, you're hourly, depending on what business you work in.
Yep.
And it's unbelievable. I don't even know what else to say about it.
So as we wrap this up, Matt, is there anything else that we heard that you would like to convey back to people that they should be aware of?
No, I think the biggest thing is at this time, duals have not been canceled.
Correct.
Fargo has not been canceled. If you're planning on being part of either one of those, keep yourself ready. Keep doing the workouts like the guys have been putting on the MNUSA website, doing some of those workouts, just keeping yourself busy.
Yeah, is it Dylan Ness that's doing the workouts, or no? Not who's putting out the workouts?
Barr's been doing a lot of them, and Jason.
Barr's been doing some, and who?
Jason Ness has been.
Jason Ness, and they're awesome workouts, right? And all you have to do is do what he does, and you'll stay at least fit and ready. But those are free. Take advantage of them. I know Jason Ness is taking a lot of ownership and I'm sure Farr is too, and making sure that the kids have good workouts. So please take advantage of those. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was a great point.
Yeah, and I mean that's the biggest thing, because we want to make sure that the boys are ready to go. Whoever it is that makes the team. If we do duals or we have Fargo, make sure you're ready to go and that you're ready to go out there and compete at your best level.
Right.
You're not just sitting around. I mean, I know kids still have their schoolwork, but I guarantee schoolwork's not taking 7 to 8 hours a day.
Right.
Then you still have time to go out and do something. It's.
And when we say ready, we're not talking about sneaking off in groups of 12 and having a practice.
Right. I mean, it's simple as, Colby and another buddy of his, they go up and they go on, they run on the track. They go over and we have our thing up at the high school here that's all set up for lifting during the summertime. And they go up there and and they get a workout in, and they've been doing it. Well, I bet they're 14, 15 days now in a row. They've been out there and done something. Parker wrestles for RCTC actually, and he's wrestled and graduated with Colby last year. And the two of them go up there and they work out, and they, I told them to grab all the free weights from our house and threw them in the van so they can bring those up there when they go to work out.
Yep.
And it's they have something to push each other. At least those two, those two can be pushing each other as much as they can. just to be ready for next season. You know, they want big things next year,
Yeah.
and they can go out there and do it.
And nobody's stopping anyone from doing some road work right now, right? I mean, want to keep in condition, get your tennis shoes on and run, right? Resistance training is resistance training. I'm an old health club guy, and it's what I do for a living. And whether you're doing push-ups or bench press, it's all resistance, right? Not one is better than the other. As long as you're doing, you know, even if you're doing tons of self squats, if you got steps in your house, if you've got some old PCV pipes and you could create slosh pipes, you know, you cap the two ends. You can make a slosh pipe. You can make a slosh pipe squat pipe for $7-8, right? If you've got, you can go to the store and buy sandbags for $2-3. You can carry sandbags. If you've got 5-gallon buckets laying around your house, you can fill them with sand, fill them with water. You can carry them up and down your driveway, right? No different than logs. There's a lot of things you can do, but you have to be innovative and don't be afraid to be silly. I mean, if you're active, you're active. If it looks goofy, who's going to see you? You're only in your house doing it anyway. If you're doing wall push-ups or just, you got to do resistance along with your road work and do whatever you can.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see some of the boys out there, some of the kids out there, what they're doing for workouts. You know, make sure you're putting that stuff out there. Share that. Share, hey, you know, I just made, like, you know, you were just talking about PVC pipes. You know, it's a great idea. Water into buckets. I mean, it doesn't matter. Who cares if you get splashed on a little bit here and there? Big deal. It, you know, it's something. It's you know, going out for a 3 or 5 mile run. You know, for you guys that do love to run, you know, some of the guys that are track and cross country guys and wrestle, you love to run, keep doing it. There's no reason why not to. I mean, obviously you can look at me. I'm not a runner. I'm not that kind of guy, period.
Well, these results that I have are not typical, right? So, I mean, these yikes.
You got that runner's body.
I do, right. Yeah. My left leg does. I put a little video out there. It's on the MNUS website too, of just my son in the backyard with a few things you can do between inverted push-ups, some sledgehammer on a stump. He did some pull-ups on a swing set, and then he did he did a log carry. So there's a video out there of just different things you can do even in your backyard to try to find some interesting or new ways to work out.
Yeah, just try to, you know, the biggest thing is keep yourself ready. Whether we're keeping ourselves ready for this winter and this this winter for high school stuff, but just keep yourself doing something now so you're ready for duals and Fargo do happen. You know, and we'll, like you said earlier, we'll probably do an update at some point as far as new information comes out, just to kind of let everybody know. And hopefully it's hopefully we get good news, because my thought is, if you know what, if there's going to be wrestling this summer, as a country, we're in a good spot.
Oh, well,
you know what I mean? So
if we do wrestling this summer, I'll let you pick the spot that I do the backflip on.
Yeah.
Right.
Deal.
So
I know.
If we're wrestling this summer, I'll be happy to attempt one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, that's one of those things.
Attempt being the key word there.
we're sitting here talking about all this stuff, and it could be just not a waste of time, because it's good information to get out there, because everybody's asking. I mean, I'm getting texts and phone calls from people. What's going to happen? What's going to go on this summer? What's going to go on? Are we going to have Fargo? And not like anybody's planning trips to go anywhere right now, so that's not a conversation piece. But you know, it's one of those things where, just like when we picked Heartland Duals teams, and I know you said it too to us, like, why are you doing that? They're not going to have the team.
I'm not gonna lie, I did.
Yep, and it was one of those. A lot of people did, but we still sat down as a group, made those decisions, went through everybody, and it was, I think, in my mind, it was one of the best things we did, because we're still able to tell people who was on the team and who was picked and so on, and it made a lot of kids' day, you know. And I know Cadet Duals would probably do that, but we have literally, if nothing, to base Cadet Duals on, but just picking a team at this point. We have no results or anything. So,
and we have to be optimistic, right? We have to be optimistic, and we have to prepare, you know, plan for the best and prepare for the worst, right? But with that said, I think, you know, we stay ready. That's the advice that we're giving you. We're hoping that things happen. 60 days from now, we might look back at this interview and say, man, were we nuts to be that wishful? Or 60 days from now, we might say, man, we've got some of the smartest scientists in America, and they came up with a great vaccine, and we're off and running. And wasn't it crazy that we thought we weren't even going to be able to do these events? Either way, 60 days from now, we're going to look back at this interview, and I guarantee our world won't be what it is right now today, right? So one way or the other. So with that, Matt, I appreciate you coming back on. I apologize about the technical difficulty last time. I think it was maybe for the best. We shortened this up a little bit this time. And as you said, when we learn some more information, we'll keep investigating. We'll keep our USA channels moving. We'll talk to the people that know, and you and I can do this again, and we'll get the information out to everybody.
Yeah, sounds good. I hope this helps and is informational for a lot of people, and just kind of see where we are and a little bit more in depth and behind the scenes, a little bit of MNUSA wrestling as far as where things go and what things are being paid for as far as what goes to. It's important to let people know and see behind the curtain per se. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, and obviously, if there's anything that is people got questions about stuff, both of our information it's on the website. If you got any questions, feel free to contact me. I don't
Sounds
want
like we have anything else going on.
Yeah. Jamie's just sitting in the house too, so more than willing to answer questions or help out if we need to.
All right, Matt. Well, you and your family stay safe. Tell Kobe we said hi.
You too.
Stay
Tell
safe.
Gavin hi.
Everyone else out there, stay safe. Keep working out. And one thing I can promise you, we are going to get through this. So,
Amen.
all right, Matt. I will call you later on. Thanks for taking the time. And again, we'll touch base in the next couple of weeks and let everyone know where we're at. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.